Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Home Dad Chat. We are without Brock. Unfortunately, Brock is sick today, and he won't be joining us. I would ask that you keep him in his thoughts. He has not been feeling well at all. And if you know Brock, you know it's very difficult. It's got to be a hardship that's come up for him to miss something that he is committed to, especially the podcast. He loves being here. He loves talking to you guys. And so, yeah, I'm a little concerned about him, but I'm sure he'll be fine. He's in good hands. Now, Brock and I had thought about what we were going to talk about tonight. We had originally said we were going to talk about food, one of my favorite subjects. Well, holiday food, meal planning, coming up for Thanksgiving, especially, which is usually for a lot of people their biggest meal of the year, even. We were going to talk about what our plans were, both for those meals and for the holidays themselves, like if we were going anywhere or if we're having family over, and just kind of an overview of our personal traditions and what they were for the holidays. And because Brock's not here, and I don't want to just sit here and make you listen to me talk the whole time, I decided to bring on a guest who I think has a lot of good information to offer all of you and me as well. I talked to him recently and I set up a recording for him later. He's going to be a guest on his own show at some point, and it's going to be great. I think you're really going to like what he has to say, and he has a lot of very positive things to offer us. And a part of that comes through the difficulties or the negative sides that we have with experiencing with holidays, whether it's the stress, trying to get that meal cooked, if it's dealing with the people that are coming to your house or dealing with the people whose house you have to go to, reaching your, not your chosen family, but the ones that you're stuck with, the ones you were born with, and how they can really stress you out. Another part of it that I hope we can talk about tonight, if we have time, is understanding of a lot of times we have goals that we're working on in our lives. And for a lot of us, it's our nutrition, if we're on a diet or what have you, and kind of throwing that out the window. I understand why this happens. I'm saying this for myself because I do it every year. Yeah, I can wait. And that time really between the week of Thanksgiving to maybe the end of the year is just kind of this nebulous, have some cheese. It's a time when we really kind of let those things go. But I want to just touch on it, and we may get a little more in depth than I think we need to, but on deciding to stick with your nutrition plans, deciding to not have a cheat day or meal or week or holiday. You have goals, you have momentum. So developing the mental fitness to have the self-discipline you need to make sure that you stick with those goals. Now, I'm not going to harp on this a lot, and we're not going to talk about it a great deal probably, because this is a time when a lot of us just want to let our hair down, so to speak. We want to let go. We're going to do what we feel like doing. We're going to eat what we want to eat. I'm going to have a second piece of pie. There are reasons that we do this, and a lot of the things that we eat around the holidays is what I would consider mental health food, and I'm all right with it. I'm not going to judge anyone for their eating habits, but if you're looking to maintain your progress and your momentum, self-discipline is very important. So I hope we get to touch a little bit on that. The other thing that I want to talk about, and this is before our guest gets on, but we may touch on it again, is traditions. For Thanksgiving this year, we're celebrating, it is on the November 23rd, and November 23rd is also a holiday called Wolf Newt. Wolf Newt is a holiday started by an 8-year-old, from what I remember of the story, who told his dad, I just want to have a day to celebrate wolves. Okay. The kid has an affinity for wolves and wanted to celebrate them. And how do we do that? Eating a lot of meat. I have to believe the dad heard that and went, oh, hey, guys, we got to eat meat on Wolf Newt. Another part of it is going out after dark and howling like wolves. I introduced it to my family, to my kids, and it was cute and it was amazing. One of my kids does have a huge affinity for wolves, and that was it. Sealed the deal. Every year we celebrate Wolf Newt. Every year we get a lot of steak. And then also we would do the full turkey meal, a lot of food coming into the house throughout that month. So what we did last year is decide that we were not going to try doing a turkey. We're not going to cook a turkey at our house. The reason for that is we have an old kitchen, and the double oven is only about 24 inches wide, I think, interior. It's terrible. I can't put 2 chickens in there at one time. I have nothing that I can make a big meal with, and a turkey is just right out. And honestly, if I'm going to make a turkey, I'm going to make a big turkey. That's what I do. So rather than maybe taking it and frying it or cooking it another way or having it, prepared for us even, which I really don't want to do, we decided last year, well, instead of turkey, let's just combine the two and have steak. Now, I will tell you, at any point, if you offer me steak over anything else, I'm probably going to say yes to steak, because steak is amazing. And we developed that as one of our traditions. So this year, we didn't even think about getting a turkey. We're having steak. We're having friends over. We told them we're having steak. If you want turkey, bring it. But we're going to have steak. And the reason I point this out, one, because it's funny, but two, make your own traditions. Respect the traditions of others, whether they be your blood relatives or your chosen family or just neighbors. Yes, respect their traditions. And if your in-laws or parents want to come over and they need to have a turkey, then yes, you have a turkey. Respect those, but make your own. I want to make one example that I think would fit for a lot of people that would listen to this podcast, and that's the Christmas picture, where you get the whole family together dressed up in like goofy sweaters, and you get everybody to stand perfectly still, smile with their eyes open, and have a picture taken so you can put it on your Christmas card or whatever else. Great idea. Horrible thing to do. And with 4 kids, no, we decided we weren't going to do it. Now, my wife is a very traditional person, and she had a bit of a problem with that, but I'm not that traditional, because I didn't celebrate Christmas or anything else growing up, so I didn't have Christmas traditions. And I said to her, this is just painful. This is just irritating. We're not getting any joy out of this. Making the kids wear sweaters when it's practically summer weather in Georgia, and then trying to get them to all sit still, and then trying to get them with their eyes open and smiling and not just showing their teeth. Have you seen those? No, I'd smile. Show me your teeth. And they just stick their teeth out at you like, Oh, I wish you could see that. If you don't watch the video, trust me, I showed you a lot of teeth right there. But that tradition for us was detrimental. It was not beneficial. It was not joyful. It was irritating. And so we stopped doing it. We just decided we weren't going to do that one. There's no problem doing that. If there's a tradition that you feel like you're forced to do, change it. Make it a little bit more of a fit for your family. What does your family need to do? How does your family need to do this? Celebrate this. When do they put up the Christmas tree? When do they play Christmas music? When do they start celebrating Thanksgiving? Do they celebrate Wolf Newt? And if not, why not, friends? It's steak. Come on. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and get our guest on. I think you're going to like him a lot. He's got a lot to offer, and I had a really great conversation with him previously, and I want to talk with him about his traditions and what he's planning to do for the holidays and what his meals are like, because his kids are all kind of older for the most part, and to see kind of what we can do about the stress, goal setting, self-discipline, and things of that nature, and what he calls mental fitness for our holidays. So we'll be right back with him.
Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support, connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today.
Welcome back, everybody. I've got my guest, Pete Armstrong, a good friend that I've made just recently, I'll admit, but we've had some amazing conversations so far. Pete, welcome to the show. And just straight out of the gate, what are your plans for Thanksgiving?
Well, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me on the show. I'm excited, glad that we're connected. And for Thanksgiving, what am I going to do? I have a unique situation. I have 3 kids. My 2 older kids are going to go to St. Louis to be with their mother. And then I have my 6-year-old the entire Thanksgiving. So I'll go to my cousin's house who's here in Madison. I'll bring a dish to pass and we'll eat all the traditional Thanksgiving Day meal items.
Yeah.
But in years past, I've definitely cooked at home and done it all. But this year it's going to be a little less intense for me, a little less preparation, and just going to show up and probably bring something and then enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy it. Exactly. I love making the big meal. I really do. I would do all of the meal as everything you could imagine. I would put it on the table. But again, that's overworking myself. I will love it because everybody will sit down, and what I want, we have a huge table, and I told my wife, I said, we can fit 12 people. I want this table full every year. And I want everybody to walk away from it stuffed. And that to me would be, that's what I want for Thanksgiving, just that ability to give that to everybody. But that's unreasonable. And I don't think we really enjoy it as much as you are if you're taking on everything. So I kind of like your idea, and how you're doing it. Well, I did this dish. I hope everybody likes it. And I'm just going to enjoy myself.
They're both wonderful in their own right, right?
And you're going to be with family?
Yeah,
your brother?
So no, not my brother. I have 1, 2, 3 cousins that live in Madison. So I'll be with my cousins this Thanksgiving. My brother's going to go up north. Sister's going to be with my mom in Milwaukee. So Thanksgiving is different than holiday and then Christmas.
I think I'd like to hang out with my cousins more than like my direct family sometimes. You're not as close. You have that. It's like you're not as familiar. I still like you. We can hang out. Yeah, we can have fun.
Yeah, you don't annoy me as much.
You don't annoy it, right?
If we're being real.
Right. So, for what I'm doing, I'm staying home. I'm having people over. I'm asking people in the community, see if they'll come over. I've had 0 confirmations. But everybody's like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me see what I can do. And I feel like they're going to wait to the very last minute and then be like, oh, hey, that's tomorrow. Have food. So I've actually planned ahead because I do have a slightly larger family. So I've got a bunch of steak. We found a bunch of steak on sale and stuck it in the freezer. And then we're going to just have the sides ready and do things that are easy. I have one friend I'm hoping that will come over. We've never had them over, and they're vegetarian. And I'm all over learning how to cook a good vegetarian meal, like something that's, that they are like, oh, this is amazing. Because, of course, growing up, I've never really even eaten vegetarian in any way. So I like that they're coming over. And I told them, I'm going to need a recipe that you love. You need to tell me something coming into it that I can really, latch onto it
a little bit.
Right. So we've talked a lot about the holidays in the past on the show, and we've talked about a lot of things that we do, of course, is about meal planning and the amount of work it takes to get things together. And kind of, if we end up as an at-home dad, if we are working, I mean, if we're at a holiday, we're basically just taking all of our work and going on the road with it, right? So there's a lot of stress involved in that. But I think unless you plan it well, like being with your cousins, we do end up finding that we get very stressed out on holidays. And I'd like to introduce you to our audience in the way that we met, because what you do for a living works very well into dealing with that emotional stress. So if you don't mind, I would like you to introduce yourself officially and let us know the business you're in and what you do. And if you can, tie that into how we can work on the emotional stress of the holiday.
Yes, stress around the holidays, it's real. I want to say it's not avoidable, but we can reduce the impact of it. So what I do is I work with men specifically, and I think most of my clients would call me a life coach. And I focus on helping men reduce their stress and quieting their negative thoughts so that they can be a little happier, have some greater self-confidence. And also what I really care about is helping them improve their relationships, their relationship with their children, and also their partners or their wives. Because I really believe, Danny, that we're designed for a relationship. We're designed for connection. And what I've experienced in my life, and it sounds like my clients as well, is when our relationships are off, especially at home, life just seems off. And so what I do, I mean, right?
Yeah.
And so what I do is I offer coaching engagements and men's only group mental fitness trainings in my practice. And really, at the end of the day, I'm starting to call myself, just kind of created this the other day, but I'm a well-being advocate for men.
I like it. Yeah. And you are.
I want to help men be happy, honestly.
Yep. And we didn't talk about this the other day, but I'm glad you brought it up tonight on self-confidence. I will say that a lot of what I see with at-home dads and what I ran into myself is it took me years to own this job, to be able to step up in a room and just go, yeah, I'm an at-home dad. I even say I'm a homemaker now. I have no problem with it. I'm fully confident in it, but also I've been doing it for 14 years or so. And I have 4 kids to prove that, look, I know what I'm doing. You know, I've earned my stripes, so to speak. But talking about self-confidence, because going into the holidays, a lot of times we run into father-in-law or even father or cousins, brothers, whoever, that kind of look at you and go, are you still doing that thing you do? What kind of tips do you think you might have? And I hate to put you on the spot because we didn't talk about this previously, that could maybe just help some of our listeners kind of bolster their self-confidence, at least briefly. And I want to say before we do that, guys, this is just an appetizer. You're going to really have to get with Pete if you want to make some strides. But if you have any little tips about it, because walking into that room and having your father-in-law is a lot of times what it is, look at you like you're nothing because you're not the breadwinner, you know?
So I've never really officially had the at-home dad title. But what I have had is low self-confidence. And if that's what you're telling me that resonates with this group of guys in some way, shape, or form, for some of them, been there. And I had it for many years because I've been a single dad for a very long time. So I had a lot of I had primary placement of my children. So that in itself carried a lot of shame that negatively impacted my self-confidence. And so I can relate big time about this. In addition, just knowing, like, having low self-confidence because I struggled with addictions in my life, like pornography and sexual promiscuity, things that caused shame in my life, that when I would go around people like family or the father-in-law or any other people, I would have that shame. And to me, that's what's at the root of people who struggle with self-confidence, is they don't believe they're good enough.
Right.
And that's at the root of it. And so there's a lot that needs to happen to change that. But I heard something beautiful the other day. I think Ed Milet said this, but basically self-confidence is doing what you tell yourself you're going to do. So doing the things you say you're going to do helps build self-confidence. So that could be abstaining from behaviors that you know are not good for you,
Mhm.
right? That could be, like I said, pornography. It could be instead of going to the gym, you sit and watch Netflix. It could be anything, right? So doing what you say you're gonna do to yourself,
Mhm.
not about the father-in-law, it's not about the kids, not about your wife or partner.
Nice. Yeah.
Like how can you build trust and integrity with yourself? That builds self-confidence. And so what are we, about 10 days out from Thanksgiving?
Mhm.
Honestly, if you could, a couple days ahead of Thanksgiving, just try to do a couple things that maybe you should have, that you would like to be doing. I think that in itself would help you, would kind of raise your confidence bar a little bit,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does to me.
So that's one thing I would say. Another thing is, I get this from Brene Brown,
Mhm.
who I love, and I have every one of my clients read her book,
As you should.
The Gifts of Imperfection. I
Mhm.
know like her audience is kind of probably more women,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
the things she talks about, I truly believe men need. And so this is just a sentence, but what's the story I'm telling myself?
Mhm.
So right, let's just, for example, give me an example, Danny. What's a story you tell yourself coming into like a family event? Want to maybe put you in a spot a little bit, maybe,
Yeah, yeah.
or how you
Fortunately for
used to
both of
think, or how
us,
you used to
I'm
think.
good with
You
it.
know, you know.
Well, no, but I still do. I still
Okay.
question that I belong there. That I,
Mm,
my in-laws are amazing. I mean, they are amazing. They are intelligent. They are loving. They're compassionate. They're a unit. I mean, we go to Christmas, Thanksgiving, anything like that, or summer vacation with them, and they all just mesh together, and they
mm,
rarely ever even have any differences. I mean, they'll, they're still people. They still get upset with each other. And I came from basically poverty and a broken home and abusive home, and I've been divorced twice,
mm.
and I've
Yeah.
had a bankruptcy, which my
Yeah.
I looked at my father-in-law when I met him, and he's a real estate and property management, and he's doing well for himself, and I was right. Yeah, he's got a little money, and he's retired now. He got any more money because he sold all his properties, and I'm like, I cannot. I don't even know how to talk to this man, right?
Yeah.
I don't belong here. I'm not even blue collar, as we'd call it before. I'm nowhere near what this guy needs me to be. And how is
Mm,
he gonna have any desire for me to marry his daughter? Because when I went
mm,
up, I did go up, and now she was in her 30s, and
yeah.
so it wasn't. I think she was in her 30s. Anyway, she was near 30, and I didn't need his permission, and
Mm,
he didn't really care, but I felt like that's what I needed to do, right? And I'm sitting there going, I've got nothing. I can't bring anything other than the fact that I love your daughter. So when I get around them, I still tell myself, you don't belong here. You don't
mm,
belong with these people. They are too good for you, and you're just you're not good enough.
mm. Yeah. Well, if I was with you right now, I'd give you a hug.
I appreciate it.
If you
I
would let me
appreciate it.
give you a hug, I would
Yep.
give you a
Yep. I would.
hug. Um, yeah, man. And that's the story you tell yourself.
Hmm.
And I'd invite you or any of the listeners here, when you say that story, is it true? Is it a universal truth that you don't belong, that you're not good enough, that because you don't make enough money, because you don't have this job,
Hmm.
because you this is not your first marriage, because of X, whatever, fill in the blank. Is it literally universal truth?
Right. And it's not.
It's not. And the challenge with this, though, Danny, is that if you're going to compare yourself in the ways in which you just shared, right? Financially, family unit, they've been married forever. If you are going to compare yourself to that, well, then in some way, shape, or form, if that's the metric, then there's almost a piece of you that feels that it's kind of somewhat true. You don't belong
Hmm.
if you compare to that,
Yes.
but you do belong. You're family now.
Right. They tell me that all the time. My wife tells me there's no way she couldn't imagine being with anybody else. No one has ever even come close to making her as happy as I do. No one has ever loved her as deeply as I do. And she was really appreciative of every moment we have together. but that original thought, that old record that's been playing, for lack of showing how old I am, that old vinyl playing in my head that's telling me constantly, right? You remember that? Yeah, it's like, wow, yeah, old record, huh? Yeah, old man. But that recording that I have going constantly from when I was just a child, even.
Yeah.
And now I feel I'm much, much more at peace with myself now. The story still comes up. I hear the thought. I hear it, and it plays. It still plays. And I know now I can look at it and go, you don't know me. If you knew me, you wouldn't even try that stuff. I don't, because I'm not concerned. It turns out my father-in-law was a sugar beet farmer growing up, and was in a house of like maybe 4 bedrooms with 9 kids, 2 adults. And they slept upstairs in the attic, where if you slept against the wall, your blanket would freeze to the wall. I mean, it was the poorest of the poor people, right? And he really, really had struggled, and he just made his way into life, and got into real estate and all that, and became a person of greater wealth and what have you. And it was amazing. We drive around, we started talking about farming equipment and stuff, and I started talking about the farming that I've done, and it was like we were best friends. It was amazing. And
you just told me before you didn't have any way to connect with them.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. So yeah, so it's really easier for me now, but I still think about it. But I love that you have that tip for our listeners too, because that's what we're going to run into going into the holiday. It's like, the imposter syndrome, or I don't belong there, Peter, I hate to keep changing subjects on you, but I do want to cover a lot tonight, and I want to tell our listeners, you guys got to come back when Pete's on. We've got an episode for just him coming up soon, and you guys got to be here for the whole thing, because this is just snippets that we got in the last minute because Brock was sick. So I'm really looking forward to the whole thing. But you mentioned addiction earlier, and we're going into the holiday period where drinking is, 1, very prevalent, but 2, very common. I mean, I think we all have a holiday memory of the relative that got drunk, or every year, the holiday memory of the relative that gets drunk, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, if you're okay with it. And again, I don't want to pry, but looking at how we're going into these stressful situations, a lot of us will use alcohol to compensate, and so I'd like to hear, to cope. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
I love this topic. I'm a sobriety advocate, and I'm in recovery myself. I've been sober from alcohol for just over 3 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. It's probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life, is to take alcohol out of my life. I used alcohol to cope with daily stress. I also used alcohol to cope with some deeper pains from childhood. So it was kind of a both thing. Obviously, I use it as a social lubricant in a way to kind of be with people who I did have a little, imposter or shame about. So I know what it's like there. And the challenge here is, it's a conundrum, in my opinion, with alcohol around the holidays, because in many ways we don't care for some of the people we're going to spend time with. And often that is our family. And so what do we do to kind of numb some of that anxiety or pain? We drink.
Yeah.
So it's funny, not funny, because it helps, but then it doesn't, right? Like, it could get in the way of, I know for me, for example, I'll speak from my experience. When I was drinking, I wouldn't say I was more quick to anger, but I was less caring about having a conflict. Like, I'd be willing to engage in a challenging dynamic, and then that could lead to it being stressful, and the people around you see that or hear that, and that ends up causing other people stress.
Yes.
So like, I would argue with my mom maybe, or something, and my sister or my brother, or even my kids. Even my kids would say, "Dad, don't argue with grandma." And so I say this because when I was drinking, I was more likely to get into those conversations and challenge people. And so what I want to say to people is to listeners is, if you can, and you notice if this resonates with you, I would encourage you to monitor your drinking. if you can, and maybe even abstain if you know that you are like me in a way where you could see yourself a little more in conflict, because at the end of the day, the kids, you don't want your kids thinking about holidays and not
Right.
liking holidays because you're argumentative, or Uncle Johnny's argumentative, or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, because at the end of the day, you want your kids to enjoy these holidays, and at the end of
Right.
the day, we're creating memories.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yes.
really, holidays are about creating memories. And so I would encourage listeners, if you can, to really try to watch your drinking. Because also, I mean, that's just talking about like conflicts with the family. So many times people get OWIs or DUIs around the holidays.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
listen, and I don't know what the laws are where everyone's listening, but 2008 is not that easy. Excuse me, it's quite easy to get to,
Yes.
especially if
Yeah.
you're in 4 or 5 hours hanging out with people.
Hmm.
A couple old fashions. That's where in
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Yes. Yeah. It
Uh,
is. Yes, it is.
a couple old fashions. You're at point oh 0.08.
Yeah.
So that's daddy going home in a police car
Hmm.
on Thanksgiving night.
And again, in those memories of your kids will have, and I mentioned when brought up the subject about knowing someone, having that memory of someone that got drunk at a holiday. You don't want to be that person.
No.
And you don't want it to be, oh yeah, Dad, I remember you used to get drunk every, and like you said, argue with Grandma, and I don't know what was going on, but
Yeah.
it really is something too that's so easy to get into, because one, you just need a little something to handle that stress. Okay, why? Yeah, and alcohol is so common, so acceptable. It's like
It
everywhere
helps.
you go, So yeah.
And Danny, I want to make a little distinction here.
Hmm.
Uh, the kids saying, Dad got drunk and argued with Grandma. My kids never, they've only seen me drunk twice. One time on New Year's Eve, and I was hammered. But and then one other time. All
Hmm.
the holidays or other times that I argued with Grandma, I was drinking, but they never saw me as drunk.
All right.
I think that's important to say.
That is
Not
very
not for
much.
it's my point is because that's me even having like 2 drinks
Hmm.
or 3 drinks. I was even more likely to have conflicts.
Yeah.
So I make that clear. Like I wasn't like
It's not
drunk.
drunk. Yeah.
Just I
Just.
got that little buzz going. I'm like, I could easily see myself getting a little.
Hmm.
So I digress, but I just want to share that
No,
because
I
it
think,
wasn't
yeah, that's a great point, because the way I was saying it was, you're the one that falls into the bushes and vomits or whatever. No, this is
totally
just
not
us
that
having a
person.
couple of drinks, and it's too much.
Exactly.
So, and I love that you bring that up. We
Yeah.
have a lot of members who are sober, and we have actually a couple of their ambassadors for non-alcoholic beer companies, and you will see them a lot, especially at our convention, our annual convention, and things like that. And I don't like beer, but I've had non-alcoholic beers and beers that I liked. And I'm like, oh, this is good. I would drink this, and it's still technically a beer. And also the dealing with your kids all day long, even one alcoholic drink is too much. You really can't, take that risk. So we have a lot of people that will fall into it and put it off, but then you deny yourself for so long, and you're like, I'm not going to talk to Bob's going to come in here and tell me all this stuff. No, I got to have a beer. I got to have a drink. There you go.
Yeah.
No, there are other ways to handle it. So,
Sure.
And I want to circle back with you on that when you come in for your episode, because we want to kind of just focus on the holidays and things like that. And I think we've touched on some really good subjects, things that we really need to think about for it. We are running out of time, unfortunately, but I really appreciate you coming on the show last minute. I mean, just late notice as much as it could be. But just so everybody knows, we had talked about potentially trying to get you on the show sooner. And I really wanted you to be here, but we had other things. So this really worked out well, I think. And I'm glad it worked out for your schedule, Pete.
Awesome.
So before we go though, and we're going to, of course, put all of your socials and everything into the show notes, but where can people reach you? What's the easiest way to reach you?
Excuse me. I would say there's multiple ways. You can email me at peteinspires@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Pete J. Armstrong. you can go on Facebook and see Peter Armstrong. And then I'm also on LinkedIn as Peter J. Armstrong.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I would say, at the end of the day, there's no strings attached. If you ever have a question, just hit me up in Messenger or email me, and I'd gladly help you out if I can.
Thanks,
This
Pete.
has been
I
great.
really appreciate it. It has. I really I'm very happy that you were here, and I cannot wait till
it worked out.
Yeah. I can't wait till we have more time. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Everyone, thank you for being here tonight and listening. Pete, again, thank you definitely for showing up, and we'll see everybody next week. Good night.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.